Hey, and welcome. Every single day we make all kinds of promises and agreements. But when exactly does a casual promise, suddenly become a legally binding contract? Yeah, it can happen with a formal signature, but it can also happen with just a simple click. So today, we're going to dig into that surprising line between a casual chat and a deal that could actually hold up in court. So let's just jump right in with a question. I want you to picture this. Two people, maybe they've had a few drinks and they start talking about selling a whole farm, and they scribble the deal down on the back of a restaurant napkin. I mean, does that sound like a real binding contract to you? It sounds kind of crazy, right? But believe it or not, this exact situation actually ended up in court. And that brings us to our first story, the napkin contract. And I'm not kidding, this is not some hypothetical law school question. It's a real classic case that gets right to the heart of what the law actually cares about when it's deciding if a deal is really a deal. Okay, so here's how it all went down. There's this guy, Lucy, who's wanted to buy the Ferguson farm for years, but the owners, the Ziemers, just would not sell. Then, one night, over some whiskey, Lucy says to Ziemer, "I bet you wouldn't take $50,000 for that place." And Ziemer fires back, "Yes, I would too. You wouldn't give 50." And just like that, a conversation was started that would end up in the law books forever. So as the night goes on, Lucy keeps pressing him, and he actually gets Ziemer to write this down. "We hereby agree to sell to W.O. Lucy the Ferguson farm, complete for $50,000. And get this, he gets both Ziemer and his wife to sign it. So you think it's a done deal, right? Well, not so fast. When Lucy shows up later to seal the deal, Ziemer's defense was, pretty simple. It was all just a big joke. And you have to hear Ziemer's defense in his own words. He basically told the court he was drunk, and the whole thing was just a bluff to see if Lucy even had that kind of money. In legal terms, he was arguing that his secret, subjective intention was just to have a laugh, not to actually sell his farm. He was thinking, this isn't real. But this is where the court brought in a super important legal idea, the objective theory of contracts. Basically, what this theory says is, the law can't read your mind. It doesn't really care what you are secretly thinking. What it does is look at what you did and said, your outward actions. And it asks a simple question. What would any reasonable person looking at the situation think was happening here? So what happened? The court actually sided with Lucy. The contract was declared totally valid. And the reason was all about those objective facts. I mean, this wasn't a quick joke. They talked about it for over 40 minutes. They even rewrote the agreement just to get Mrs. Ziemer's signature. The terms were specific. In the end, it just didn't matter what Ziemer was thinking in his head. His actions screamed serious business deal. So you see, the Lucy case isn't just some weird old story. It's actually the perfect way to understand what makes any offer legally real, whether it's for a farm on a napkin or for a pair of shoes you're buying online. Legally speaking, it all really boils down to these three things. First, you need serious intent, which we now know is judged by your actions, not your secret thoughts. Second, the terms of the deal need to be clear enough. And third, well, you actually have to tell the other person what the offer is. In that messy little napkin contract, it's somehow managed to check every single one of these boxes. And when the law says definite, what does that even mean? Well, it's pretty straightforward. A court usually just needs to see four things. Who are the people involved? What's the deal about? In this case, the Ferguson farm. How much money? And when is this all supposed to go down? That little note on the back of a check, as informal as it was, had just enough of these details to actually hold up. Okay, so once a valid offer is out there on the table, it gives the other person the power to say yes and lock in a contract. But here's the thing, that power doesn't last forever. An offer can definitely be terminated. So how does an offer die? The two most common ways are rejection and a counteroffer. Rejection is easy. You just say no, and poof, it's gone. A counteroffer, though, that's like a double move. When you say, nah, your price is too high, but I'll give you this much instead, you've just done two things. You've killed their original offer, and you've made a brand new one of your own. Now the ball's in their court. Okay, so you're probably thinking, what on earth does a weird story about a drunken napkin deal from 1954 have to do with my life today? Well, as it turns out, everything. The principles are exactly the same. We've just traded in napkins for clicks. Seriously? Those same fundamental rules of offer and acceptance are exactly what govern the online world. Every time you buy something, sign up for a new service, or download an app, you are entering into what's called an e-contract. The law has just adapted these age-old rules to our modern digital lives. And you see these things constantly. You know that little I agree box you check without reading? Yep, that's a click-on agreement. Or have you ever bought software where the terms are inside the box? By opening it, you're agreeing. That's a shrink wrap agreement. And probably the sneakiest of all are browse wrap terms, where sometimes just using a website means you've agreed to their rules.
Now let's look at a modern case that is every bit as surprising as that old napkin deal. A guy named Brett Bailey enters a Kentucky lottery contest online, and he wins. He hits the drawing for a massive prize, $175,000. But he never saw a single penny of it.
So what on earth went wrong? It all came down to a single click. When Bailey entered that contest, he checked a little box agreeing to the rules. That was his digital handshake. And buried deep in those rules was a simple requirement: keep your contact info up to date. Well, Bailey had recently changed his phone number, but never thought to update it in his lottery account. So when they tried to call him with the amazing news, they couldn't get through. After 7 days, just as the rules he agreed to allowed, they disqualified him. The court completely upheld the lottery's decision. By not updating his phone number, Bailey had technically broken the contract he made with that one simple click. The result? He got $0. That digital handshake cost him the entire $175,000 prize. And that story really shows you the power behind these agreements. So let's talk about the actual laws that make these digital handshakes just as real and enforceable as anything signed with a pen.
And yeah, this isn't just courts making stuff up as they go. There are real laws on the books for this. Acts like the Federal eSign Act were passed for this exact reason, to make it official that an electronic signature or an electronic record carries the exact same legal weight as a paper one. In the eyes of the law, your click is your signature.
So here it is, the big takeaway that ties this whole thing together. From Mr. Zemmer claiming he was just joking on a napkin, all the way to Mr. Bailey clicking "I agree" for a huge lottery prize, the lesson is exactly the same. The law judges you not by what's going on in your head, but by your outward objective actions. What did you say, what did you do, and what did you click? And that really leaves us with one last thing to think about. Just consider your day so far. Did you order coffee through an app? Did you agree to some updated terms of service on a website? What binding digital handshakes have you already made today without even giving it a second thought? Thanks for joining me.